Okay, hi. I'm back. I just put out a vlog, which you should watch if you haven't seen, but I haven't been posting a whole lot lately. Just because I've been busy with life and stuff, and YouTube is not my top priority, nor do I think it should be, though I do enjoy it. I'm not wearing any makeup. I'm a little self-conscious about it, and I haven't brushed my hair today, but I am here to talk to you about Exhalation. This is one of my favorite books I've read this year, like hands down. It took me several months to get through it, and that was just because I was reading so much for class and stuff. But when I was reading it, I loved it. I also really like reading a short story collection over the course of a semester, because then like when I do get the chance to pleasure read, I can just read a story, and that way I don't like forget the whole plot of a book every time I pick it up. That's just a habit of mine. I found out about this from my ex, and she recommended him very highly. He's honestly like one of my favorite sci-fi writers ever, I think, and I love sci-fi. I love Vonnegut, I love Bradbury, I love Murakami, if he counts as sci-fi, I don't know. But this is so good, and I honestly think Ted Chiang is the next Ray Bradbury. And I hate when people do that, when they're like, this person's the next this person. But like, that's the only way I can think to describe him, because he's so eloquent and I think a little bit more emotional than Bradbury, and deals with things that are obviously a lot more modern in terms of science fiction than Bradbury did, because obviously Bradbury was of a different time. But he has that same like kind of Twilight Zone-y, like moral questions with technology, lots of like kind of fables sometimes, but he's also just like playing with things that he thinks are interesting, and I love that. I just like, you can tell he loves writing too, and that's it. It just makes it more fun to read. A lot of these stories, like as I was reading them, I was like, damn, I wish I wrote that, which like as a writer is a frustrating feeling, but like as a reader is a great feeling. And I only found this out once I finished it, but there's a little section for story notes that he has. So he talks about all of the like kind of thought processes, whatever, behind like all of the stories in here. So like sometimes inspiration and different things like that, and like I was mad I didn't find out about it sooner, because like as I was reading I was like, where did he come up with this? Like where did this idea come from? Like what is he as a writer thinking about these things? Or like there's also some like sort of historical facts in here, so I was also like, what's real, what's not, you know? So if you do read this, know that there are story notes, and there's one for each story, so I think it would be really interesting to read each story note after you finish the story, because it answers a lot of the questions that you as a reader will have reading these. I want to talk to you about like some of my favorite stories of all of them. Let's see. They're all really fucking good. That's the thing. I guess, okay, so one of the ones that really sticks with me a lot, and something that I feel like I've read nothing like it ever, is this story about a woman who is a archaeologist and I think a professor too, and she's living in a version of our world where archaeologists have found proof of God, which is such a cool concept in itself. But essentially, like, there's so you know how like trees all have rings, and you can tell how long a tree has lived because of how many rings it has, because each ring is like a year of life. Well, they've found trees in this world that start like this, so there's only like one ring, but it's much bigger than like a baby tree, so it means that the tree must have been created at that size and then grown. So that's like one piece of evidence. They find humans without navels, like bodies, dead bodies without navels, so like they call them primordial humans. And not having a navel means you weren't birthed. Which brings me back to like the bluest eyes. Or no, the Song of Solomon. But anyway. So, you get this whole creation narrative mixed with archaeology and science. And it's so fucking cool. Because like me as like a religion nerd also, like, oh my god, so interesting. And like how people would react if they knew there was real evidence for God, you know, because that also takes a lot of like the faith element out of things. It's just, it plays with religion and science in such a fascinating way. I also loved, there's a really long story in here that's kind of like a novella called The Life Cycle of Software Objects. Oh, I don't know which, let me tell you which story that other one is. Omphalos? I don't know how to say that. Omphalos, O-P-H-A-L-O-S. That's the story about the archaeologist. But there's a story called The Life Cycle of Software Objects in which they create, there's this team of people, the main character is a zookeeper or former zookeeper, and they create AI which are being like basically built from scratch, and they teach them everything about life, but in like our time. So rather than the way that like, if you've coded, you know, like with a lot of machine learning, which is when like you give a computer data, like the test data, and then the computer uses that to analyze new things, and then gets better and better at it. Rather than doing like machine learning like that, where they give these AI lots of data, they have them like live life and experience things in order to learn. So it's like a totally different approach to AI than any that exists now, as far as I know. I don't know a lot about AI. And then you get into this whole complication of like, these are robots, but then like they're not real or they're not human, but they also like do have emotions and have learned sensations and things like that. And so like, are they pets? Like, how do they interact with their like owners? How do they interact with other people? Like, and then they become outdated, so then how do they interact with newer AI in the same system? Like, it's so fascinating, all of these questions. So that's one of my favorites. There's some really cool stuff about time travel. Oh, there's a great one, what's that called? There's a really cool one about like extinction, which he actually wrote as a part of an art exhibit, which I didn't know till I read the story notes. Oh yeah, okay, Anxiety is the Dizziness of Freedom, which I think is the last, yeah, it's the last story. Is like also just so fucking good. I'm telling you, read this fucking book. If you like sci-fi, if you like literature, read this. I can't wait for him to write a novel. I'm so excited. So in this story, they have, well, it's hard to explain. There's a lot of time travel involved. That's my laundry. They have these, like they're called prisms, and they act as like a device that will activate another branch splitting in the universe. So let me explain a little more. So with the theory that with every action there is a parallel universe in which the opposite action was taken, and that universe continues and like has its own timeline, basically. And these act as like parallel universes. So basically the story unpacks like what would happen if you could create a device that would let you see what was going on in the parallel universe from any point of branching. Hopefully that makes sense. But honestly, just read the story. It's so good. I just want more people to read this so I can talk to them about it. But I really, really loved this book. I can't wait to read more Ted Chiang. I hope you read this. Yeah, this is like one of the few book reviews I've done recently, because this is one of the first like full books I've read in a couple months. But this is so good. It's so worth it. It's not that long. Every story is amazing. Every story. There's not a bad story in here. There really isn't. Yeah. So I hope you enjoy. Check out the links in my descriptions. I always donate a quarter of my profits. I don't make money off of YouTube yet, but if you subscribe, I might. I donate a lot of my profits, from like a quarter of my profits every month, from Depop and other things in my life, to a different organization. So the organization this month is, damn it, I can't remember the name, but they work with HIV and AIDS survivors and just people living with HIV and AIDS, and are trying to create more of a supportive system for people that are living with that. So if you want to join me in donating, please go to the link in my description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day.